Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and tonight I'm very honored and proud to bring you the scholars from the Edge of Time, Nicholas Diak and Michele Brittany. Greetings, O scholars. I await your wisdom.
Greetings, Hercules. I hope you're having a good evening.
I am. I've been looking forward to this conversation for days. So yes, I'm having an excellent evening.
Hopefully you're having a cool summer as well. We're in Phoenix. We're officially knocking at the 110's doors. So it's boiling outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally got our air conditioner to work.
Oh
So
no!
that solved many a problem with this weather. But yeah, it's been oppressively hot here as well.
Yeah, we're very happy to have our air conditioner, that's for sure. So, well, I know we're going to be talking about a movie tonight, but did want to kind of sidetrack for a moment. Last week was Nicholas's birthday.
I got old.
Happy birthday!
Yeah. So, and we did a few things. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Took 2 days off, made a nice 4-day weekend. We just went and had some local adventures on Thursday. Oh, I thought you were making funny.
Oh no, I was scratching my shoulder.
Like,
sorry.
Usually I do that to you. On Thursday we went to there. We actually live like a block away from a board game store, and they had a free play night. So we have a game called Time Stories that we've only played once before, and we haven't been able to play it too much because we have this critter right here who insists on being part of board games. And so that means laying in the middle of the board, knocking the dice around, knocking things over. So it was nice to grab our game and go to a venue dedicated to board gaming because we got our own table and got to sit down without additional feline players, as it was.
Yeah.
And so we had fun. Time Stories is one of those cooperative games where you play against the board. You go, I guess there's different expansion packs that takes place in different eras. I think there's some antiquity ones, but yeah, it's like Quantum Leap. You're back in time in a different body trying to stop something from happening. It really is like Quantum Leap or Trancers. Yeah, you'd be like Jack Death and you ride the line to one of your ancestors.
Yeah, except we're not going to ancestors. The base game is actually a story set in the 1920s.
Sane Asylum, yeah.
A sane asylum, and there's a lot of, I would say there's some Lovecraft undertones to it. So it's actually, we've played it twice. We've lost both times, but we are making progress. I think maybe the third time we will.
Maybe.
We might just beat it. But we're anxious to try out some of the expansion packs. I know that there's an Egyptian one. There's one set in Venice during the Renaissance period. There's like, distant future. So like kind of thinking of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, kind of like going into the future.
Well, the other neat mechanic in the game is that it saves your state. So the next time you play, stuff you've uncovered stays uncovered. So it's by design. Yeah, the more you loop around and play it, the easier it'll become as you remember things and things unlocketh in the game. And the way you pack the board up will save its state for you. Just like hitting save in your role-playing game.
Yeah, so it's actually a really interesting game to play. One of our friends, her and her husband put us onto it. So
if you remember, we had Danny Delisle as a guest on Scholars a couple years ago. So folks, if you want to go in the archives and have us listen to us interview her about writing for Conan and Torg and stuff, there you go.
Yeah, she's actually the one that put us onto that game. So yeah, we'll apprise you down the road how we do. We're actually hoping to go again next month sometime, and see if we can't play a third time and maybe actually get through it.
Maybe 4th of July is on Thursday. Maybe they'll be open and we can go 4th of July.
Maybe. And what else happened on your birthday celebration?
On Friday we went and took a tour of an old hotel in Phoenix called the Biltmore, and it's I think it's 50, I'll just say 50% designed by Frank Lloyd Wright and 50% designed by one of Frank Lloyd Wright's students. But it looks a lot like the house from the Vincent Price movie, House on Haunted Hill. It's got those like cool like stone squares everywhere, but it's made in the 20s, so it's very Art Deco-y and very old school Hollywood-y. So we went there. It was also the birthplace of the original tequila sunrise, not the 1970s cocaine fueled one that's made with 90% orange juice, but this one has like creme de cassis and other stuff in it. So it's way different than a normal tequila sunrise. So it was, you know, I like mixology and cocktails, so it's a bit of cocktail history to have a tequila sunrise at the place where the tequila sunrise was born. But yeah, we did it. We did one of the tours. We had a tour guide, took us to all the different areas of the old part of the hotel that's from, you know, the 20s and 30s, and all the history of like the different movie stars that stayed there. Guess it was owned by the people that made Wrigley gum, and they have a little house outside of it. No, we didn't get any ghost stories, but we did get to see a speakeasy room, and that was
Very cool.
Yeah, it was a hidden room. But they've since put in a door into the hallway so that you can actually go into the room. It was really, really fun. What's kind of interesting about this hotel is that it was privately owned from the time it was built, I think in 1929, up until it was sold in 1972. So in between that, approximately what, 50 years, there's really no written history. So they've been trying to piece together like people that stayed there and things like that through the pictures. And so they have to kind of speculate to some degree because there isn't written documentation. Like some of the pictures will show activities, but they have to try to infer like what was going on, what was the celebration, and then looking for different celebrities because it was very connected to Hollywood from the 30s. Like we got to see, well, we didn't see any of the hotel rooms, but we were outside room, I think it was 1201, where Clark Gable always stayed. The East Wing, where all of the presidents from, I think it was Hoover through
George Bush Jr.
George Bush Jr., except for two. But I think all the presidents have stayed out there at one time.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, very interesting. We had a very good time. Definitely wouldn't mind going back again and seeing more. And the Wrigley house has been converted to a museum.
Yeah, check that out.
So it'd be nice to go back and actually see that. We just had time really for the tour. And, you know, the temperatures are so hot that we don't really want to be outside too much. So the tour was pretty much indoors in the hotel. So anyway.
I guess the cool thing is we live like right next door to a canal, and that canal goes right by the hotel. So it's this kind of, I don't know, neat, like
Very cool.
theory, we could get on our bikes and bike to the hotel. Now we'd die in the process, but we could. So it's this kind of neat little bit of,
That might be a wintertime bike ride.
here we go.
But
Those are the major birthday things, I think. I mean, aside from, you know, presents and cheesecakes and foods and NAMIs. But yeah, doing the big hotel tour was cool. You know, we're trying to still, we've been here in Phoenix for a couple years, so we're still trying to explore all the secret stuff of the city.
yeah, and do a lot of day trips, because having all of our kiddies, you know, we don't really feel we're not at a point of like going for a couple of days away. But day trips, things that are a few hours, or you know, work well with our life right now. So well, I guess should we turn the page and maybe talk about a movie?
So we got a movie to talk about today.
Yay.
So
Yay!
this will be our conclusion to our Bella Cortez retrospective. And fittingly, this movie is also her last sword and sandal film she made. Although She made 2 more films after this one. This is her last, Peplum film. So tonight we'll be talking about Alibaba and the Seven Saracens.
From 1964. by the way.
1964. So not only is this one of her later films, this is also very late stage Peplum, because at this point the genre is almost died off, because at this point you'd have spaghetti westerns in the upswing and other genres.
Yeah.
All right. Somewhere in Arabia, there is a city that has a golden throne, but no leader. Omar seeks this throne, but needs to defeat the best warriors of all 8 tribes of the area. The 8th tribe is led by Ali Baba, whose people have been suppressed and enslaved by the evil Omar, so they turn to a life of rebellion. Omar learns of a new attack by Ali Baba from a tortured prisoner and sends his men to capture him. Ali Baba flees, but is rescued by Fatima, a niece of one of the other tribe's leaders, who leads him to a safe cave. Fatima returns to Ali Baba, and though she recognizes him as a rebel leader, she falls in love with him. However, Fatima was trailed by Omar's men, who capture the duo and bring them to the city, where Ali Baba is tossed into the prison and Fatima into the harem. Ali Baba is reunited with some of his tribesmen and other prisoners. The short-statured Juki, who has been using secret tunnels to explore the city, has an escape plan. A guard will free some of the prisoners, and the harem's eunuch will free some of the ladies. However, everyone but Ali Baba and Fatima are recaptured in the courtyard. The next day, while stealing a horse, Ali Baba and Fatima are captured in the same courtyard. Fatima is tossed back into the harem, but Ali Baba is forced to prepare for a fight in the 8-way battle to determine who will rule on the Golden Throne. On the day of the battle, everyone fights. The 8 warriors trickle down the 4, and then it's Omar versus Ali Baba, who fight each other using chariots, archery, and swords and fisticuffs. At the same time, Fatima and her ladies bludgeon their guards with their fists and escape. Juki, using a map from a prisoner's back tattoo, uses the secret tunnels to find a switch to open the city's gate, which lets other rebels in. All hell breaks loose, and it's a large skirmish in the city's courtyard. Omar and Ali Baba kind of lose track of each other, and they fight loads of other people, and Omar gets ran over by a chariot. The people all scream for liberty, while Ali Baba and Fatima embrace each other. The end.
So that is quite a feat that Nicholas pulled off with the plot.
I made it sound coherent.
You
Yeah,
did.
you did. I was saying, wow, that sounds very coherent.
Yeah. So this is the plot from Wikipedia, and I think it's the same one that's on IMDb. A rebel leader returns to his city for a final confrontation with the evil king he is fighting. However, he finds himself attracted to the king's beautiful niece. There we go.
Yeah.
Not much there.
Not much, yeah.
So I think we kind of spoiled our thoughts on it. But Michele, what's your general impression of Ali Baba and the Seven Saracens?
It is chaotic, and it's missed opportunities, and I think that there's probably a decent movie in there, but I need to preface with the fact that we were watching an American version, AIP.
Yeah, the AIP TV version. It's from their television wing. So yeah, this was imported and went, well, not straight to TV. It was butchered first and then went to TV.
So the fact that they did so much editing on this version, and apparently the director's cut was edited a certain sequence and had, I think, another 13 scenes in it, help with coherence that we were missing on our view. So there's definitely some things that work well for it, but there's also a lot of things that don't. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this movie. That's kind of my initial thought. And you?
This movie was a hot mess, an incoherent hot mess. But yeah, granted, it's a hot mess because we're watching a very cut version. I don't know a lot about Red Dwarf, but there is a skit or bit or whatever from Red Dwarf where the robot guy and the other space people, they're looking at a photo, and I think the scene is like a parody of that scene in Blade Runner where Harrison Ford is like looking at a photo and telling it to pan this way and that way to find something. And so the robot guy is saying things like zoom out, increase resolution, and the picture's changing accordingly. But he says uncrop, and of course the picture like uncrops, all the stuff that was deleted comes back in. You can't uncrop, something that's been cropped. But that thing, uncrop, I think that's something I would yell at this movie, to bring all the deleted stuff that was chopped out back in, because it would help the movie immensely, because it's I would guess the international original one must be more coherent, because we were befuddled by this film when it started. We felt like we're like 20 minutes already into the film, but it's 1 second into the film. Like, did they just forget the first 20 minutes of the film? Because they were bringing up stuff and characters that we don't even know who they are.
Yeah, in just about every film that we've been watching from Italy in this series, they have an establishing shot, so you get an idea of exactly where you're at.
Or a textual crawl.
Yeah, something that would give us some information. I don't think there was even credits at the beginning. And in this one, we're like immediately in Omar and his lover's bedroom, and she's jealous about another character. And we're kind of like, well, who is this character? Is it one of the women that is in front, or right in front of the torches that are in the bedroom? What the heck is going on?
Why are you so mad?
Yeah, why are you so mad? Because we were not very clear. And yeah, it does really feel like they cut the beginning, or maybe they moved it around, or whatever they did, but it was very challenging to kind of get on board. And from that scene, it goes right into the scene of them torturing 2 slaves.
Where did they come from?
Yeah,
Who are they with?
Yep, no idea. Why are they, what's going on? I mean, you do finally pick things up because the characters, we finally see the characters, and we're like, oh, okay, great. Now we know, kind of. But
This would be like if you're watching Batman: The Dark Knight, and the opening shot is Batman shaking the Joker, saying, "Where are the bombs?" And us as the audience going, "What are you talking about? What bombs? Why are you at the Joker already? What's going on?" It just cuts right in.
Maybe the people they were mad at were the slaves that he was torturing.
Maybe. No, she's not jealous of the slaves. And of course, it's the sequence where like the slaves are, "I'm not going to talk." Well, if you talk, I'll let you live. Of course, we're not going to let you live. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So, as a side note, so as you can tell by the title, this is an Arabian themed peplum. It's very 1001 Arabian Night style, and this is actually the first time we've watched one of these styles of peplums. I know there's quite a few Sinbad films out there, and even newer ones. I don't think I've actually seen Sinbad Eye of the Tiger. I know it's a later one, but that's a Harryhausen one. But Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, Aladdin, all that kind of stuff. So those backdrops, kind of come into this peplum. So instead of being Grecian or Roman, this is I will commit it for us as not being familiar with that flavor of peplum. It was nice to see that. I know there's others, so we'll definitely watch others. So
and I've watched Sinbad films in the past when I was much younger. So I'm familiar with Sinbad, and I do know that some of the other titles do allude to Alibaba being Sinbad. So that does kind of, I guess you can kind of think of Alibaba as a Sinbad, but a different tale for sure in this film.
See, the closest, this is going to sound sad for me. My memories of, I haven't read 1001 Arabian Nights. I mean, I've seen like the Disney Aladdin film, but like a true like Arabian Tale is an old Popeye cartoon
Yes.
where he's going after, he says open sesame and finds the lair of the thorn, but it's with Popeye. So that's my that's my world knowledge. My world view of 1001 Arabian Nights is Popeye cartoon. But side note, that cartoon did rule.
Good.
There was a lot of cool animation techniques in it, I remember. But
And Popeye fought Hercules in one of them. In the later cartoon, Popeye was Hercules. So,
I believe it. I mean, he's a Herculean character that transcends space and time and kind of winds up everywhere, even though he's still Popeye the Sailor.
Mhm.
Anyway, but because this is an Arabian peplum, maybe because of its implied folklore and other stuff, there's a lot of like mentions of things like traditions and tribal laws and practices and ceremonies that are kind of alluded to in the film. Like, in order to become king, I have to battle the 8 people of all the tribes, unite them, but it's got to be under the solar eclipse that happens in 3 days, and I need their blessings to do this, and I will honor that. That's a lot of said stuff, but because the movie is so chopped, and because it's chopped, this is stuff that's dubbed in, it's all kind of meaningless. And that's kind of sad, because I feel like that's the stuff that's going to provide the motivation for why the characters do what they do. But because it's so muddled and disjointed, we're left with why is anyone doing what they're doing? Why does Fatima love Ali Baba? Why is Omar so mad? Why is the lady so jealous? Why do these other tribesmen even care? Because no one leads them anyway, so they can do whatever they want, but they're honoring some sort of tradition, which we don't know what it is, but they said it exists.
Yeah, it really feels like in all of these films, we always have the hero's journey. And it's not dissimilar to the Sinbad films. Like I remember Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger and Sinbad in the Seventh Voyage, where there were trials that the hero had to go through to overcome or overturn some sort of curse. And in this particular case, it's while there are these different kind of symbologies about traditions and mythologies and things like that, it's really hard to kind of get a good toehold or a foothold that helps us to understand the motivation of the characters. And that was definitely one of my cons, is that I did feel that it was really hard to connect with the characters. I don't think we've mentioned, but Omar was played by Gordon Mitchell. Ali Baba was played by Dan Harrison. Bella Cortez is Princess Fatima. And then Carlo Callo is Farida, which was Omar's
lover, maybe?
Well,
We don't know.
His lover. They weren't married, but for whatever for whatever reason, she's hanging out with him because she's greedy, I guess. And Omar wants to be the king over the 8 tribes. I mean, we do get that. But there's a lot of,
But he basically rules them already, because everyone's coming up to him anyway.
He's got kind of a tyrannical rule. So it's kind of like, okay, why? I mean, I guess to legitimize his rule over the 8 tribes. This is why we're going through it. And unfortunately, we just don't have enough to connect the dots. So we're making assumptions here, but hopefully our assumptions are correct.
I would say out of all the films that we've watched for this retrospective, they all had like a linear progression. Scene goes into scene. We know why people are doing what they're doing. The last one we talked about, Giant Metropolis, even though that had its faults, we still had a pretty good idea why the villain was the villain. Why was he doing all the bad things with the weird science? Why is Gordon Mitchell there to deliver his message? Why is all this stuff going on? We know all that. The Tartars, same thing. Why are the the Tartars fighting against, not the Tartars, the Vikings against the Tartars. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they betraying? We have all that stuff. And this one, it's not there. And I think they're attempting to band-aid it by the characters verbally stating these things. But it leads to, you know, the classic faux pas in storytelling of, you know, show, don't tell. And this movie is trying to close its gaps by doing lots of telling, but the spaghetti it's throwing at the walls is not sticking.
Yeah.
But I think we should talk about Gordon Mitchell.
Yeah, yes, let's talk about Gordon Mitchell.
Because if there is a rock that holds this movie, it is the bad guy. And this,
and it's Gordon Mitchell.
It's Gordon Mitchell. This is where, okay, the movie does get, I would say, subversive and interesting. This would be like having Steve Reeves as your main villain. You just can't picture that. But Gordon Mitchell, when he's the main, in fact, it was weird because the opening shots are him fighting with his mistress. I'm like, well, that's Gordon Mitchell, but he's supposed to be the good guy, right? But why is he so mean? No, he's the bad guy. So it is interesting seeing the traditional strongman hero that we've known, you know, through a lot of movies, all of a sudden be the bad guy character. And even though he's the villain, he still acts like a strongman hero character. At the end of the film, he's doing all the things like a Hercules, Samson, Machista character would do. He's picking up people, he's throwing them around, twirling them around, doing feats of strength, while our hero is Alibaba, and he's this kind of,
well, he gets knocked around a
he
lot.
gets knocked around a lot.
And it's kind of like it's a little difficult to buy in that he's our hero when he's struggling so much in the first third to half of the movie, before they get into kind of the tournament. I would say, you know, Gordon Mitchell was cast against type, and it makes me think of when Peter Fonda was cast as the villain in How the West Was Won. You know, and that brought up quite an uproar.
Wait, How the West, you mean Once Upon a Time in the West?
Oh, Once Upon a Time in the West. You know, when he was cast as a villain, which was totally against any other time when Peter Fonda has always been a good guy. And so that actually made it interesting to have, you know, a strong man who should have been our hero be the villain. And of course, you know, the body on display is almost always Gordon Mitchell. And of course, you know, he looks very built. He's definitely in shape. He cuts a strong figure in all of his scenes, which really helped to solidify his strength and his power.
And if you recall, a couple episodes ago, we talked about, Michele wasn't here for this one, but we talked about Iron Master, the 1980s pseudo sword and sorcery film. And I made a comment that, oh, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Who's the really bad guy that looks like the Italian version of the guy from Die Hard? I can't remember his name all of a sudden. It doesn't matter, but I think he was in Rabid Dogs.
Oh, you're talking about George Eastman.
George Eastman, yes. George Eastman's the bad guy in Iron Master. And I remember making the comment of, he's the bad guy, but he's doing all the interesting good guy stuff, or the stuff that happened to the good guy happens to the bad guy. He finds the magic, well, makes the magic sword. You know, he goes through the trainings, he raises the army, all the stuff that the good guy is supposed to do, the bad guy does. And it's just very similar, I think, in Alibaba and the Seven Saturns, where Gordon Mitchell, as the bad guy, does all the stuff that you would expect the hero to do. And I think that's interesting. And it's definitely something that, you know, in very capable hands, you could do something even more with. But I would say seeing Gordon Mitchell as a bad guy was a delight. And it was interesting seeing him put his good guy character as a bad guy, and basically, I mean, he's a bad guy in the film. I don't want to say at any point like he redeems himself or becomes a good guy. It's just, you know, that Machista, Samson, Hercules type character in a bad guy role, doing what those characters are doing for hero purposes. He's doing all that stuff for bad guy purposes. And I dig it. I like it. I'm with it. The only bad thing is he gets ran over by a chariot. So it's like it's like your hero through the entire film all of a sudden gets hit in the head by a brick and dies. I mean, it's so anticlimactic, but they couldn't. That's the thing. Alibaba's supposed to be clever. I don't see it. So you would think, okay, like a Goliath versus David and Goliath situation where, you know, David uses his wits and slingshots and other skills to beat the Goliath. I think you're supposed to be expecting that from this, and Gordon Mitchell could be a very good Goliath. But no, Alibaba doesn't do anything like that. Instead, he gets ran over by a chariot.
Yeah, it was interesting that Alibaba was supposed to be very clever, and that made him a worthy opponent. But what's interesting about the tournament is that there wasn't like any, you know, prolonged scenes being able to see that come out. You know, in fact, we see him with his helmet on and we're like, well, you know, he could have taken the helmet off, and Nick made the comment, oh, well, it's probably a stunt double and he wasn't doing his own stunts, and that's why he had the helmet on for quite a bit longer. But it does seem very anticlimactic that he gets run over by a chariot. So, I mean, Alibaba doesn't really beat him and take the throne. And in fact, at the very end, the message is we are all free. We shouldn't take freedom for you know, and we shouldn't take advantage of the freedom. We should, you know, use that, the fact that we have freedom. And so it's a different kind of message. And I mean, you know, given the fact of the time period that this film came out, you know, they probably were experimenting with some different ideas, especially knowing that, you know, you are getting to the tail end of the peplum cycle, as we know it in the 60s.
So talking more about Alibaba, played by Dan Harrison, a complete opposite of Gordon Mitchell, which in theory should work cinematically. Your hero is either the perfect mirror if you're a bad guy, or the complete antithesis of your bad guy. In either direction you go should get, you know, some good storytelling. Our Alibaba is extremely plain. He is the he is the Murray Head of rock music. I say it, side note, I like the song One Night in Bangkok, but whenever it comes on, whatever, Michele just shivers. And I'm like, well, the song is fine, Nick, but he's just so plain.
He's so ordinary.
He's so ordinary.
Now, what I will say for Dan Harrison is that he does have the look of the Alibaba or Sinbad that you had other characters play Sinbad. And I mean, I definitely feel like the actor that they chose for the role is very much in keeping with what American audiences would have been familiar with the actors that played Sinbad. So in that regard, I mean, I think, you know, he was attractive, he had dark hair, you know, he wore the clothing that gave you the, you know, the hint that, oh, that's Sinbad, you know, and things like that. So
but he doesn't bring anything else though.
No.
Like the character isn't memorable. He doesn't, all he does is just get captured repeatedly and then has a fight at the end that's muddled with other people fighting. So he never has like a chance to
really
shine.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no isolated scene with him where he has to overcome an obstacle, solve a riddle, use his apparent wits and cleverness to do something. It never happens. He never comes up with the ideas to escape. That's actually another character that does it. He's not exactly quite a leader. Apparently, even though he is a leader, he doesn't really have a lot of charisma to him for leading. His fighting is, I mean, he gets hit by an arrow. And he keeps going, I guess, but there's nothing he does that makes him stand out as anything special. Now, again, in a different type of story that could work, you know, an ordinary person that rises up to become something greater. But, you know, this is a character that should already be great. Or
And
even if
should-
he's not, should be giving the opportunities to become great, your hero's journey.
Yeah.
And it's just not there.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have already come, I mean, other than the Sinbad label, I mean, he should have come with a lot of experience. And I mean, I think that's kind of alluded to, but it's not like overt with Omar and why he wants to settle a score or fight him. So unfortunately, it's just not very, very clear.
He could have been a visionary and anticipated Game of Thrones.
That's true. That
They
is
said they had
true.
you focus on the hero, the main character, and then they kill the hero. It's
That's
the last thing anyone was expecting. A lot of songs, creative ones by fans were written about this, and many YouTube videos were made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, our last major character is Miss Bella Cortez, who plays Fatima. And she has like 3 phases in this film. And it's like every time a new phase of her character starts, I'm with it, and then the movie just doesn't know what to do with her. So when she's a princess, but unlike the other films we've seen her in, she's not like a normal princess. She actually starts out with like some agency to her. She's out and about. She has clothing on that looks like adventurous, like the type I would you know, kind of see like a lady who is about to, you know, withdraw a dagger and say, "Give me your purse of coins, you thief." You know,
I would almost say kind of like a pirate outfit. You know, she has the corset with the kind of bodice work that accentuates, you know, her body in a pleasing way for men. But she also has the cape, the pants,
she looks like an
and
adventurer,
boots,
or a pirate.
and yeah. So you know, you're thinking, oh wow, this is a different kind of princess. This is not a normal or average princess that we'd see in other movies.
And then in the next scene, she has a different outfit.
The one with the helmet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's militant.
Yeah, she actually has a militant look about her because she has a helmet with large or very tall plumage. And she looks militant, or someone kind of high up in the military. Almost I thought, well, maybe she actually is like a captain of the guard type of thing. So it's very, you know, it's like, oh wow, okay, great. Here's a woman who has agency. She's not just a you know, a damsel in distress or femme fatale. She actually is going to have something to do in the film.
A side note, out of all the films that we watched of Bella Cortez, this one, Tartars, Giant Metropolis, and Vulcan Son of Jupiter, she does have the most varied costumes in this one. The other movies that she's in, her costumes are very, you know, singular. I think she wears like the same kind of blue dress in Vulcan Son of Jupiter. Tartar, she's not on screen that much, but I think she just has like kind of the same like Viking rags on.
Yeah, like she's got a court dress,
Yeah.
and then for the rest of the time when she's with the Vikings, she has a couple of different outfits. But in this film, definitely have to say,
wide range for her.
a wide range for her. The costumes are actually really beautiful, and I would say that that's definitely, you know, definitely on the pro side, I would tick. Not just for her, but also for Fardita, who is Omar's lover, as well as Omar. Have some really gorgeous costuming. And actually all the costumes were actually nicely done. So I don't know if they were recycled, or if they had a great seamstress on this particular movie. But I would say that that really helped to kind of elevate, you know, this film, as well as their some of their sets, particularly the indoor. I mean, we thought they looked very familiar, you know, kind of like the Italian waterfall that we see in a lot of Italian films. But the costumes and the sets were actually really quite nice for the film.
Yeah, so the Bella Cortez's costumes, at the beginning, they do set that signal of this is a special type of character, a militant princess who commands people, like not like in a spoiled way, but like in an army sort of way. That she's has agency, she's solo, she goes on adventures, and then she just immediately falls in love with Alibaba, and that just kind of goes away. I'm like, nuts. Okay. Okay. So, but then now her second phase is everything that happens to Alibaba happens to her. So like they're both captured at the same time. They're both brought they're both brought to Omar at the same time. They're both tied up the same way. They're both put in different prisons. They're both trying to escape at the same time. Like, okay, this is different. Our heroines' actions and journey is mimicking our primary hero's actions and journey. This could be interesting. This could be cool. No, she disappears for the last third of the movie. She just vanishes. She's just in her harem prison for the last third, which is funny because the last third of the movie is this big combat sequence, and they make a big deal of Fatima, you are gonna watch Alibaba die in front of your eyes, and they don't even bring her out to watch the spectacle. They just So it's just they give Bella Cortez all these opportunities, and then the movie takes it away, and it's so sad because it's all this cool stuff that she's given a sandbox, and then they take her out of the sandbox, and I think Bella Cortez has the proficiency to do some cool stuff in said sandbox, and the movie just keeps yanking it from her. I'm like, no, movie, give it back to her. Let her do the cool stuff that she's designed to do.
And especially when here's an actress who's actually been, acted opposite Orson Welles, Christopher Lee, and Gordon Mitchell, and several others. So the fact that, there are probably other scenes that we haven't gotten to see where she does get to have more, screen time instead of just little bits here and there, because it does feel like she drops out of the last, I'm going to say almost half of the movie, because the tournament lasts for, oh God, almost half the movie, and it's pretty long-winded. They do, kind of jump cut over to her in the harem and the other ladies, taking over the guards. But it's, very quick, and then they're back to the men fighting out in the yard. So it again, it's unfortunate because, here's somebody with pedigree of acting, and they don't get a whole lot of time. And again, that could be the editing. We don't know what the original Italian edit was.
Well, even the stuff in the movie, they whip away from her. So at the end of the movie, she's supposed to have, the 101 showdown with the evil lady, Omar's girlfriend. And they set that up. And of course, I'm sitting there thinking back to Vulcan, Son of Jupiter, where Bella Cortez's character gets into a whip fight with Venus, the goddess of love, and she just kicks her butt. And I'm like, yeah, take that. So I'm expecting that caliber of fighting in this. And so, Fatima, Bella Cortez's character, comes out, starts fighting, and then all of a sudden these guards come away and take her away. So she doesn't even get like her fight scene. Right in front of us, her big fight scene is taken away from her. And
yeah, in fact, she has a sword in the prior scene, and that's another thing. We get continuity issues, which again could be due to the editing. But in the prior scene, we see her leaving the harem. She has a big sword in her hand. We're like, oh boy, that Fadia better watch out, because she's pissed. And
should have come up and said, "Take this, yeah, evil lady." I was going to say something not appropriate. Right to the spleen.
But yeah, but when she comes out to the yard, she doesn't even have the sword anymore. So she's disarmed at some point through there, and it just, again, it's a missed opportunity to do something a little different.
I will say this, when Bella Cortez's Fatima character is thrown into the harem with all the other ladies, one, it made me think a little bit of the Barbarian Twins film we talked about a long time ago, where there's a harem of ladies there, but this harem made me think a little bit of the women in prison genre films, except the women get along in this film, which is so weird, because usually when you have like a women in prison film, there's always like the handful of ladies and the one lady that's like the boss B word, and I hate you, you're going down, and that's when you get the cat fights in the prison cells. None of that in this film. All the princesses and other ladies in the harem, like, oh, you're so cool, come on in, we'll be your best friend. Alibaba was going to rescue you, and you are so cool. And I'm like, that is wholesome for a lady women prison sequence.
Yeah, because when did those films kind of get their cycle?
A little bit
later?
late. It's a little bit later, but there was a couple in the 60s. But late 70s, early 80s is when they really took off, I think, after the Ilsa films, when the Nazi exploitation stuff happened. But there were some Roger Corman women in prison films. Then it died a little bit, and then like I think it's like Chained Heat or Bound Heat or Jail Heat. One of those movies started it again.
Well, I think for me, because we're getting close to the hour, I just have one other observation as far as characters, and that's Franco Doria, who played Juki, who is a little man, and yet he plays actually a fairly crucial prominent role. But not only that, instead of being the butt of a bunch of jokes, he's actually, demands respect and gets it.
Yeah, he does.
Which I thought was definitely unusual.
He tells the hero, keep your hands off me.
Yeah.
Respect my personal territory here, man.
Yeah, and obviously a ladies' man as well, because I mean, he goes and visits the harem and lets them know what's going on. He's like giving them messages. He's trying to find the one last area of the
Well, he's blowing them
castle.
all kisses. Hey, ladies, I'm here to give you some news, and the escape plan happens at 10, 1, 1, 1, 1, and they eat it up. Man,
Yeah.
they love Juki.
Yeah, so yeah, that was actually kind of refreshing, and even though I would say he does give some humorous relief to the film, it's done a little more fun, and it's not at the expense of him as a little person. Yeah, which I thought was great.
Yeah, compare that to the other film, Vulcan Son of Jupiter, where they have the little character Geo, where his sword statue is the butt of the jokes. The strongman character carries him around like a purse while he's kicking and screaming
about, yeah.
He's depicted more cowardly and everything, and none of that stuff's in this film. The little person in this film has a lot more respect. Now, he does have kind of one flaw, I guess, is he's the mastermind of all the escape attempts, but everyone keeps getting recaptured. So I have to kind of challenge his escape planning mastermindingness, because I don't think it's
he
that
may not
great.
be a subject matter expert for escapes, but anyway,
that's his only flaw. I mean, I guess going hand in hand with that is there's a scene where like there's a prisoner with a map on his back, and he puts the map on his hand and he's going through the tunnels. He still manages to get lost a little bit, despite the map on his hand that flips hands sometimes because of flipping the image. He still finds his way, but that's a little bit of comedic relief. But other than that, I mean, yeah, he's one of the more competent characters. He has plans. He gets along with everyone.
He may be one of the most developed characters, actually.
We don't know why he's in prison, but even the bad guys like him. There's the eunuch sets the ladies free. The guard sets the prisoners free. Why do they do that? Because they like Juki. Everyone likes Juki.
Somehow he's able to have these relationships and networking. So
the final shot of the movie is seriously everyone going, "Where's Juki?" And then trapdoor opens, ta-da! Roll credits. That's how much everyone loves him.
Yeah. Well, that was my last point. I don't know. Was there any others for you?
That's all I have too. So Alibaba, Seven Saracens. It was nice to watch an Arabian-inspired peplum. It was nice to see, Gordon Mitchell as a bad guy while still playing like the genre characteristics of a good guy character. It was nice to see Bella Cortez in all her costumes. I just feel that the acting's not bad, the set's not bad, costume's not bad. It's seriously there's a good movie here that just got butchered, and I think if you're able to watch an original print of it, an original language, or some other edition of it, the movie will probably be way more coherent, and I think those versions would be make this because there's a fine movie buried in here. There really
Definitely.
is.
Mhm.
I think even in more capable hands now, someone could probably re-edit this film and redub it like New York Ninja or something, and make a story out of it that looks and sounds good. So it's there. There is a good movie in there. It's just, what's that line from The Godfather? Like, they massacred my boy, they massacred my film.
And on that note, I'd say that concludes our discussion, and we'll pass the torch back to you, Hercules.
Thank you very much. As always, your analysis was phenomenally informative and entertaining, and I thank you for it. My thoughts as you were describing all these things were it would probably make a half decent tabletop role-playing game module.
I think that could happen. Mhm.
And again, happy birthday, belated birthday.
Thank you, sir.
Natakatos. May you live to be at least 100 and be in great health. And I guess I will talk to you guys very soon.
Well, it's good to play catch up with you, Hercules. Thanks so much for having us on, and we look forward to talking to you next month as we bring forth from the Library of Sword and Sandal film something new to discuss on Scholars on the Edge of Time.
Very good, and I will drop this before we wrap up. As I am going to invite Michele to talk about her heroic journey. We're also getting into a phase where people are starting to talk to me about doing short films. So if you guys would like to be involved with that, I can keep you posted on what's going on. And again, it will be up to your schedule and your interests, but I will be presenting that to you in the next week or two.
Very cool.
That sounds good. Be very interested.
Okay, good night again, and thank you so very much.
All right. Have a great rest of the June, sir.
And you as well.
Thank you, Hercules.
Thank you, Michele. Now I have to not be confounded by the buttons.